Let's go across to our guest joining us. Farooq Renzu Shah is a former bureaucrat from Jammu and Kashmir. Syed Fazal Kashani is a political analyst, and also Shiv Khera, author, is joining us. Let me go across to Farooq Renzu Shah first up. The order from the Supreme Court is very, very clear. On all counts, it has held that the government of India and the Parliament and the President are well within their rights to abrogate Article 370. We have to look forward. So I want to begin by asking you, will the political parties in Jammu and Kashmir accept this verdict? Because they seem like they don't want to, even today.
I tell you one thing, this decision of today, this has opened the eyes of everybody, even of those who were living in the world of illusion, and making people to resort to the violent phases, resort to the secessionist phases, resort to the anti-Indianism, resort to the criminal frenzies, only for their political goals. Their political goal has been actually, it was hiding 1947's Himalayan mistake, Himalayan blunder committed by the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, as well as he was the Maharaja's employee at the time. He was the chief emergency officer of who later on became the Prime Minister of Jammu Kashmir under dividing Kashmir into two, rather giving the most tragical and most fragmented, and which was a river to sea, our which has annexed with India under the everybody accepts the accession. If everybody accepts the accession, why Gilgit and Baltistan was left over? Now, today's this thing has exposed 3-4 factors very clear. Like even judiciary of Jammu Kashmir had once issued the order, the government judicial order was their judgment that Jammu Kashmir is the sovereign city. Today, Supreme Court has opened this. No, it was a fake. It was false. It was nonsense. You have merged, and merger
was not on any conditions. Absolutely. No, absolutely. The merger was not on any conditions. If at all, the conditions came later. And those conditions also were brought in. Now, you could argue whether this was right or wrong, but those conditions were also brought in, as the court said, for further integration of Jammu and Kashmir, not its complete, the denial of integration into the rest of India. Farooq, let me also go across. Siddharth Yadav of the BJP is also joining us now, but let me also go across to Syed Fazal Kashani. Is it time for the likes of the Abdullahs and Muftis to finally accept that this Article 370 bogey is dead? This is like flogging a dead horse if they continue to do so after the Supreme Court's judgment as well.
The political parties of Jammu and Kashmir, for example, National Conference and PDP, they don't have any other option than to accept the verdict of Supreme Court. But the fact remains that this judgment has disappointed the people of Kashmir. It has disappointed the aspirations of Kashmir, because the way it was abrogated by keeping the entire state under curfew, not taking the people of Kashmir or Jammu into consideration or into confidence while taking this decision, remains a question. I mean, we must have seen a lot of things happening after abrogation of Article 370. Talk about the sentiments of the people. I mean, they are not happy with the decision from the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Because that was
Can I just touch upon this? Let me just break this down a little bit, Mr. Kashani, because you say the sentiments of the public are hurt. Now, sentiments is not what this case was fought on. I'll keep that separately, because sentiments run parallel to legal process. Legal processes are not, they cannot put a lid on sentiments. I accept that, and I, grant that submission. But the challenge that was made to this order was that it was not done correctly, in the sense that the Constituent Assembly's recommendation was not there, and therefore the President couldn't take that call. Now, you have to accept at least this much, that as far as legalities go, there is no challenge to this.
No, the government of India must have, they may have, won the case in Supreme Court, and on legal terms, the way the procedure that they followed, But if you talk about the situation they created in 2019 when the article was abrogated, I mean, it does not justify that. I mean, you have
I'll tell you
kept the
what, there
entire.
are ways to look at it, Mr. Kashani, because given the history of terrorism, given the history of separatism, and given the history of on-ground, on-ground danger to lives, I think one could also argue the government was justified in doing what it did.
No, I mean, that is what I am saying. I mean, the government of India kept the entire state under curfew for months. I mean, people who were outside Jammu and Kashmir, they were not able to connect with their families. We have seen that time
I
as
know,
well.
but we're not discussing just that. I understand the point you're making, but we're not discussing, the curfew or what the conditions were. I'm purely discussing the judgment and whether that judgment and all the falsehoods, for example, that have been spread in the minds of Kashmiris for 70 years, that will have to end somewhere or the other. Someone will have to get up and say that, okay, maybe what we thought was not correct. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, sorry, can you repeat the question? Your voice was breaking.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll just come back to you. Shiv